Good Wednesday to you, and welcome to another edition of Red Meat. I'm Jim Geraghty, along with Mark Hemingway. We are keeping our eyes on all kinds of fun little bits of election news. Mark, you have been our point man on the race that has been perhaps the most pleasant surprise of this election cycle. John Murtha, the congressman from Pennsylvania, who called for redeploying troops from Iraq to Okinawa, and who, smeared the names of the Marines at Haditha, and who has more pork than a pig farmer in North Carolina, apparently in trouble, and is, perhaps, in that dangerous area. I think a lot of conservatives feel like if we happen to see Obama win the presidency, but we get Murtha, that's almost a fair deal. That's how much they dislike this guy. Please tell me this guy's going down for the count.
There's a darn good chance. I believe there was a poll that just came out that had Murtha down 2 in his district.
That's what I want to hear.
Yeah, that is really good news. But I think one thing people have, they've obviously been paying attention the last couple of weeks when Murtha went out there and helpfully called his constituents racist, and then tried to apologize by explaining they weren't racist, they were just really redneck. People have been paying attention to those remarks, but I would like to say if people think that that's the reason why he's going down, well, that's only a small part of it. I think people in his district are starting to sort of wise up. The economic picture in his district is very bleak. One of the counties in his district is in fact the poorest county in Pennsylvania, and Murtha's been popular there because he's brought in hundreds of millions of dollars in federal pork to his district. But people are starting to realize that government grants sort of come and go, and this is not the foundation for a sustainable economy and sustainable economic growth. His opponent likes to say that his district's biggest export right now is their adult children.
Oh man!
But no, I mean it's entirely true. People started to wise up. I think a couple of years ago there was a big clean coal high-tech refinery they wanted to build, and Murtha's district is sitting on the largest coal reserves in the country, and they passed up Murtha's district to build it in West Virginia. And a lot of people sort of started stroking their chins and turning around and saying, well, maybe Murtha is not the economic savior that we've always treated him as for this district. So the seeds have sort of been sown. Structurally, Murtha has been ignoring his district and doesn't seem to really care about people seem to think he doesn't care much about them there.
Interesting. I'm going to paraphrase the great Lieutenant Governor of Maryland, Michael Steele, and say that when it comes to economic development, pork is not a strategy. Going from one ludicrously corrupt lawmaker to another, Ted Stevens having a bit of a rough week. We've all kind of seen our own little October surprises. I think getting convicted on 7 counts as a tough October surprise to come back from. John McCain and Sarah Palin have called for him to resign. I think it's a little almost beyond beyond that point right now. Some people are saying this says something about the Alaska Republican Party. Mark, you've been following this.
Yeah, I have. Well, I don't know. I think this says something about the Republican Party in general, and that's what's going on with Stevens right now. Really cuts the heart of the future of the Republican Party. And the bottom line is that Ted Stevens is 84 years old. We've known that he's this horrible pork-addled senator for a long time. There have been rumors of corruption swirling around this guy for time immemorial. And National Review 3 months ago editorialized that Stevens needed to step down. These charges are not new. We didn't have to wait for the indictments to come down to the pike to realize that Stevens would be a drag on the party. But the fact of the matter is the party is so concerned about retaining the filibuster in the Senate that they backed Stevens for re-election. When they had an opportunity, to get him out over the summer, the Alaska Republican primary wasn't held till August 26th. They could have gotten a real Republican contender and had a real shot at that seat. And Alaska's still a pretty Republican state. But instead they backed Stevens. Now, so the question here is you're set up in the situation with Stevens, making all these horrible headlines for the party a week before the election. The question is what's more important to the future of the Republican Party, retaining the filibuster, or is it regaining their ethical bearings and improving their image when it comes to corruption in situations like this? I would venture that it's the latter.
I'm hoping whoever is running the party after November 5th is listening to you, Mark, because I'm going to note that Ted Stevens was the one race in which I was looking at a potential Democratic pickup in the Senate and looking at that and saying, nah, okay, they can have it. I'm not, nobody wants to stick their neck out for the Ted Stevenses of the world.
Yep.
So anyway, looking at the more general election circumstance of the presidential race, I noticed something very interesting. First of all, the McCain camp has put out a really interesting memo from their pollster, Bill McInturff, basically saying, look, we think we got a great setup. All of the undecided groups are looking our way. Things are breaking our way. We've seen real improvement. I noticed a really interesting trend in the last couple of tracking polls. I want to take you through this list, Mark. Rasmussen has Obama at 50. The Gallup Traditional has him at 49. The Expanded, with all the new voters and young voters, et cetera, puts him at 51. Hotline, Obama's at 49. Zogby, Obama's at 49. Investors Business Daily, TIP, puts him at 47. Battleground puts Obama at 49. Ipsos puts him at 40. I'm starting to detect a pattern here that you look at all these tracking polls, and really this is the way it's been for a pretty long time, that in a lot of these polls, Obama is either a little bit above 50%, at 50%, or just below it. And I figure if you're an undecided voter right now, you've had Barack Obama is staring out at you from every magazine cover, even Men's Health, even though the man is a smoker. You've got commercials running wall to wall on every channel you can find. He's going to have a half-hour infomercial tonight pushing back the World Series because we can't wait to get more of politics. Every newspaper's endorsing him, and just everybody's loving him. He exchanges emails with Scarlett Johansson. He's the coolest guy ever. He's like Jesus, but better. If all of this is constantly is your messaging, and you're saying that you're undecided right now to the 72-year-old crusty war veteran, you know what? I think you just don't want to vote for Obama, and you just don't want to tell a pollster. I really think that at this point, if you're undecided, even our liberal readers and viewers out there would say, hey, you know what? The case is self-evident. So I got to think of those remaining 4, 5, 6, 7% that are undecided. I think a lot of those folks are McCain voters. I think a lot of them are folks who are just going to look at it. They have enough doubts. They haven't committed yet. They're going to go on board. You look at these numbers as they're existing and figuring that Obama doesn't get many of the remaining undecideds, 51-49, very believable. Very close in the neighborhood of 50-50. And at that point, who knows how the Electoral College turns out. So I look at this and I think this is going to be potentially a very close election, which is not what the conventional wisdom and I guess you could say hype is pushing us towards.
Well, and even still, okay, grant an Obama victory, but if it's an Obama victory by a very narrow percentage, then what does that do too? The fact of the matter is that for all of the hype and everything else surrounding Obama, this is still a very divided nation politically and culturally, and the oceans are not going to rise, and the planet and country is not going to begin to heal again just because Barack Obama is in the White House. Further, here's a guy that's pushing an ambitious policy agenda with a Democratic Congress behind him. That even increases the danger of overreach if half the country aren't looking for you to do something radical. And then you have a Democratic Congress that is already licking their chops, eyeing Obama in the White House and throwing out stuff like card check, for getting rid of the secret ballot in union elections. Boy, that's real Democratic. The fairness doctrine, again, tossing the First Amendment out the window, real Democratic. Government-run health care, any number of things that are going to make, I think, a lot of this 50% of the country that haven't voted for Obama, say, that's awfully curious. Particularly because these are issues that if Obama was running on, the election would be 60-40 McCain.
Now, the other thing I'm just going to note is that this is probably the high watermark for Obama in his political career. Unless before you say, anyone says, "Oh no, things would be great," let me observe that he's running as a situation in which he could simultaneously get the support of Ted Kennedy, of Barbara Streisand, and the Black Eyed Peas, and at the same time, Ken Edelman, Colin Powell, and Ann Applebaum. In other words, right now he's broadened his appeal to people whose interests are directly contradictory. My guess is at some point, 4 years from now, if he wins, somebody's disappointed. Somebody's walking around and not liking him. So,
4 years from now.
Yeah,
I think we're talking about November 5th. This is really going to be a situation where people are setting themselves for a big disappointment that Obama can't be all things to all people.
It's very tough to simultaneously pass the agenda of Heath Shuler and Barney Frank. There's just not enough overlap there. Anyway. That is our reasonably optimistic take on this Wednesday afternoon, the final Wednesday before Election Day. Thank you for watching us here on Red Meat. Hope to stick around. We'll have other editions later this week and perhaps even early next week if our schedules permit. So we will be here. We hope you will be too. Thanks very much for watching.